But you can't. It can't wind me up because I'm 100% confident.
He leg locks the fuck out of you. Don't. It's fine. You're 66 kilos.
Ask for it. Ask
Look
him.
at this face.
Ask for it.
This is the same shit you do with Rage Broadheads. Yo, what's good, people? Today with me I have Roarke. He is the fourth musketeer in our... What's the number for five? Our Cinco. Because it's not four musketeers, because it's pikey.
What's the four musketeers and a pikey?
Yeah, but what do you call... It's duos... Anyway.
Quintet?
Yes, a quintet. Yes. So I have Roarke, who is the fifth member, well, the fourth member of the Musketeers. Roarke is also, surprise, surprise, a jiu-jitsu boy. Currently a purple belt under Richie Kwan and Mr. Norman Vessels. He is ranked number 2 in the country at flyweight. Featherweight. I just asked you that question. 2021 won ADCC South Africa Championships.
Yeah.
It's a way of, unless you know the correct terminology. Today we're not going to talk, but anyway, welcome, Roarke. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. Today we're going to kind of skip over the jiu-jitsu thing. You're accomplished. We know this. You win.
I win.
You win. I know you're off to Euros. We were just chatting about it with Captain Hook / Poorly Thumb / Carl.
Can't say his name. He's going to charge.
Oh, yeah. Hyper elite athlete. He likes to be called. You just said his name again, so that's twice we're getting charged.
Be fine, I'll fight him.
He'll fucking leg lock the shit out of you. He said you were
him. Never.
He told me.
I think you're going to find that it's the reverse.
He told me that you can't heel hook him. That's what he said to me.
That's weird because I've done it. He hasn't heel hooked me. I do it every time we roll.
Every time. So he's not that hyper elite because what do you weigh?
66.
And he weighs 96 on a good day.
Yeah.
100 after a good meal. Okay, so he's not that hyper elite then.
He is in his category.
But you're 66 kilos.
What comes after hyper?
Elite.
Ultra?
You're ultra elite
compared
athlete.
to him, yeah.
Okay.
He looks down when he talks.
So basically he runs marathons, you run ultra marathons.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sick.
He stands to the left of me in the line.
He does because you've got stripes and he hasn't. He's going to hate us for that part. So we're actually going to get further into the rabbit hole of archery because, as I said, you are part of the bow hunting group. We'll talk some bow hunting stories. I actually want to know how you got into bow hunting. I know it's a repetitive question, but I'm actually interested because I haven't ever asked any of the four musketeers. And we already know how you got into bow hunting, kind of, because Warren last week, you were in lockdown with Warren. So
yeah, same as with jiu-jitsu. Most of how we got started is usually intertwined with Warren. He came to stay with me. Like when we heard lockdown was going to happen, there was like some panic. It was like, flip, how are we going to, what are we going to do about jiu-jitsu for the next 6 weeks? There were guys doing solo drills with those blow up balls. And we're like, that's definitely
not happening.
Not going to work. So we have to figure something out. So we got mats. We got 9 squares of mats.
House, yeah.
He came and moved in to do for lockdown. And like he said, his brother dropped off a bow. First day. It was literally the afternoon of lockdown. I wasn't even there when he first learned to shoot it. So he taught me after learning from being taught by someone on the afternoon of lockdown.
But it was like one
5
shot.
minutes.
Yeah.
And my very first shot, obviously the bow was built for Warren. And at the time we had no idea. We thought a bow was like for everybody. It was a 29.5-inch draw. I'm a 26.5-inch draw. If you don't know about archery,
we'll explain that stuff later.
Basically, you can't shoot that. So my first 4 or 5 shots, string slapped the shit out of my arm. Ended up with this giant hematoma. My brother.
Where was your anchor at the back of your head?
I don't know what that was. Well, to start, I couldn't draw it for the first half an hour trying. I couldn't draw. Eventually, what was happening is I was connecting, and then Warren stood behind me and pulled on my hand as well.
Okay.
To get it to draw.
Yeah.
And then I just string slapped the shit out of myself. I think we lost like 3 or 4 arrows on the first day. And we left it. We packed it back in the box. So we were like, nah, maybe this is not for us.
We need to do some research
So
on this thing.
We tried a little bit. We tried every now and again. Still wasn't working. Eventually, we took a jiu-jitsu approach to it.
Yeah.
We started, like Warren said.
You went into knock on.
No, we actually didn't. Probably a bad start was checking out Cameron Haynes.
Yeah.
Who, although brilliant at what he does.
Best bow hunter one of the best bow hunters in the world, and an absolute monster of a human being. But
in terms of his draw cycle, not exactly the best.
No.
But he was our only point of reference. We had only seen Joe Rogan.
I mean, he's the most famous. He's probably the most famous. If you're not in the hunting world, he's the most. In fact, he's probably in the hunting world. He's probably the most famous bow hunter out there, just because of the endurance he does.
And he's ridiculous.
I mean, the guy runs a marathon every day, and if you ask him why he runs a marathon every day, it's so I'm fitter to go kill an elk and pull it out the woods. Like, he's a monster.
And taking nothing away from Dudley, I think Dudley's also amazing. But out of the two, Cam is the better hunter.
Without a doubt. Look, Dudley is Dexter. He knows his way around a bow and would do target archery. Whereas if you said to Cam Haynes, you're not, archery's illegal to shoot on an animal, Cam would probably be like, all right, fuck it. I'm never picking a bow up again. Give me a rifle. Like, he hunts.
He's been hunting his whole life.
He's a hunter. Do you know what I mean? So, and some of his stories and some of his stuff's amazing. So I think, as I said, that Dudley is a target archer. If he was never allowed to hunt, if I was never allowed to use that to hunt an animal, I would never pick that up again. Because I do not enjoy archery. It's the most frustrating. I enjoy it, but because I'm allowed to hunt.
It's a means to an end.
I know that if I perfect that, I'm better out there. So that's why I enjoy that. Whereas if it was just, I'm going to shoot, and I will go into arrows and stuff. Because a lot of people, since the podcast, and every single guy is obviously martial art, apart from Dex, the whole thing started around bow hunting, which is our biggest passion, apart from you guys, which is jiu-jitsu, but close second is bow hunting. A lot of people said, well, how do I get into it? What does a bow look like? What does it do? And to us, we sit here chatting. They don't know if we sit there chatting about, Dex has changed from 3-fletch to 4-fletch. They haven't got a fucking clue what that's about.
Yeah.
So what I thought we'd do today is, obviously we're going to talk hunting, we're going to talk some stories and stuff, but I think we're going to go down a route. You'll see in the background there's two bows. The one above me is my bow, which is the better one. And then the one above Roarke is the really old Matthews V3.
Aren't they the same year? What year did yours come out?
2022.
Okay, yours is 1 year newer.
Do you know what a year is? It's 365 days. Do you know what? That's 365 newers. But
you don't have stabs on your bow.
No, because I like to hunt without them. We'll go into that as well, because this is one thing that I always get ripped. But you're fucking using a Hoyt.
I don't want to talk about
you just brought up your stabilizer, and you're running two obscure stabilizers. One that was color coded to your old bow, and the other one.
No, that one. I actually had two. That's why I have the fuse. I had two matching fuse bows on my prime, which used to be yours.
Yeah. So Roarke, me and Roarke out the Musketeers have a tendency to go through the most amount of kit. So this is why I thought me and him talking about kit and bows and stuff would be a good one, because out of all of us, we've definitely gone through the most amount of...
Bit of an addiction.
Yes. Most amount of shit. So yeah, let's get back to you. So you stayed with Warren. You put the bow away.
So what we did, put it away, picked it up, and then what we did was he downloaded a video of Cam Haynes shooting in his back garden, and the guy had filmed it fairly close to where he was drawing. So we broke the video up, and we basically slow-mode it, and then just broke the pieces up and broke up his draw cycle.
So
and
you basically
turned it into a sequence.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, we did exactly
like
that.
Rolling.
We took the bits of it, we turned it into a sequence. Okay, This is how you hold it. This is how you. Which is really dumb, because they'll save everybody a bunch of time. If you're starting and you don't know, just go watch School of Knock. So once we discovered School of Knock, it was pretty simple from there. We broke it up into like a lesson plan. So every day we'd come with something new, and we'd just focus on that. We'd drill that repetition. So day 1 was your feet. Yeah. Day 2 was your grip, and you just drill that on and over and over and over.
We were talking about John Dudley and Cameron Haynes, the difference between the two of them. So I'm going to give a discount code in this episode for Magnum Archery. Sepe Cilias, who used to shoot for South Africa, is probably one of the most talented archers, if not the most talented archer in the country.
Brilliant.
Very good friends with John Dudley. I will have him on the podcast at some point to talk about his career. They've got a new facility. Have you been to new?
I haven't. No.
It's so sick.
Can't
It's
wait.
so different. Like you remember, like
You have to get your hand on you as well.
Yes, yeah. But basement fight fit versus move, like it's like, oh fuck,
Epic.
this is cool. So I will give a discount code at some point when I do discount codes for Magnum. So where were we? Dudley. Basically, all the information we're going to give you today, archery is very personal. Like, we call him Rage Dwarf. The reason we call him Rage Dwarf
I don't shoot those though.
is
It's not good enough.
it's still a rage. Is this thing, and I'll go into a bit more about what
We have very differing opinions on broadheads, actually.
we're massively different. I think the only person that I think I'm probably the biggest outlier in our group. Like, everyone will some point or extent want to shoot a mechanical, but we'll go into what mechanicals, fixed blades, and all the rest of it. Because a lot of people say, what do you actually kill an animal with? Because no one, if you don't pick up a compound bow or hunt with a compound bow, you don't know what a broadhead looks like.
Well, that's yeah.
You
That's
don't
how we
like,
started.
but it's true. Like, you don't have a clue what it looks like. I didn't know what the difference was, and obviously anyone that knows me knows I'm big into knives and steels and stabby stuff. So that's where my opinionated corner of the whole broadhead thing comes in when we start chatting about that in a bit. But this is the region, this is called a rage, and this is the reason that we call him Rage Dwarf, is because he always gives me jip that it's the best broadhead on earth when he doesn't even shoot it.
Shot an animal with one.
You have. You shot an animal with
I shot
5 of them.
No.
No,
I
that was
shot
a dead meat, a rage.
So I started with the rage. I followed up with the dead meat.
Hold on, let's stop. You started the worst shot you've ever made on an animal.
No, it wasn't worst. It wasn't worst. It was... Okay, can I tell the whole story? Do you want to know the whole story?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's also the reason why I'll never hunt on a Sunday again. So we had a weekend out in the bush. We'd spoken a bit about Warren's brother. He invited us on a hunt. And we had come up pretty empty-handed the whole weekend. It was a weird farm in that, like sometimes you go to a farm and it's almost impossible to walk and stalk.
Yeah.
Like the bush, the farm hasn't been tended
Yeah.
to in terms of its like shrubbery or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So
No,
it was too
100%.
thick. So we had tried quite a bit. We had started the day up in a super tall tree stand. Warren and myself, nothing came in. So like, let's try and walk. It was just way too dense. We couldn't figure it out. So eventually it comes to... I actually did that. The first shot I made on the weekend was a warthog.
Yes.
I shot it with the Rage quartering 2. That dropped pretty quick.
Yes.
But then I didn't want to actually just shoot a warthog. I was looking for an antelope that weekend. So Sunday, they were like, this farm will allow hunting on a Sunday. Warren's brother was like, that's perfectly fine, but you have to be done by 9 o'clock because we have to leave.
Yes, I remember.
Because normally you have to let the meat bleed out a little bit and whatever. That's why you don't normally hunt on a Sunday. But this farm does all the butchery and everything for you. So he's like, you can hunt on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I wake up before sunrise. They drop us off. The farmer had told me there is a section of the farm where you can walk and stalk. But the only thing you're going to shoot there are blessed buck or impala. I was like, that's perfect. Either of those things I'm happy with. So I decided to use, there was a hide there that I decided to use as like a base. So I dropped all my stuff off so I could be as light as possible. And I sat there for about 30 minutes. Nothing was happening. These sable had come in. Obviously, I'm not going to shoot a sable. And they were just not moving off. And the guy had said, if the sable come in, nothing else will come in. They're very aggressive. It's like, okay. So I left out the hide. I walked for about 30 minutes. I spotted this huge herd of blessed buck. I was like, cool, I'm going to get a stalk on these things. So I started walking towards them. And now there's this like open field in front of me. And I was like crouching under this bush. And there was this piece of like nothing. It was like almost like grass and then felt. And beyond that, about 120 yards was the blessed buck. And I had even glassed the one that I wanted to get. So I was like, okay, I need to cross this open threshold here. And as I'm about to, I just checked this little like glint of red out the corner of my eye. And I checked this blessed buck at a cruising speed, just like cruising across this felt in front of me. I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, I'm just going to wait for it to move along and then I'll
Shoot.
cross. No, I didn't think it was going to stop on me. It was like trotting. It was like on a Sunday stroll.
Oh, okay.
So I walked across. It stopped 25 yards in front of me. I was like, okay, sweet. So I pulled the first arrow out my quiver was a rage.
Yeah.
I just pulled it, drew, and shot this thing. And what had happened is I'd shot it. It was a lung shot when we had got to the animal, but it hit the bottom of the lungs.
Mm.
It had gone straight through, and I watched it run off into the distance across this like open field and then over this hill.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. I'll give it some time.
Mm.
And I checked my watch. It was 8:15. And he's like, you had to, if you know
You're
Warren's
out
brother,
by
he's
9.
like, I'm leaving
Yeah,
by
he's
9.
going. He's leaving you.
It's like, okay, I have to make this faster. So I just followed the tracks, got to the top of the hill where I saw it go over. And as I get there were 2 more. And I was like, I should just shoot another one.
Don't do it.
And I was like, no, learn from your mistake. Don't leave an animal in the bush.
100%.
And as I'm looking at these ones, because they had just seen me, I see this thing was lying down, stand back up, and it was bleeding all down its side. So it was like going slowly. So I closed the distance to it, pulled out the next arrow, dead meat, and I had glassed it. I had ranged it at 30, and when I'd ranged it, it stopped and looked at me and then walked. So it walked about another 10 yards. So I had to guess. I was like, cool. Shot it. I shot the dead meat through its legs.
Oh, fuck.
Like it broke the one leg.
Mate.
And then it just walked off and went into the bushes.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Ended up calling the PH. He helped me track it because I didn't want to go in the bushes and spook it again.
Yeah.
Brought the dog. We looked for it. This thing was still alive.
Fuck.
Eventually, third arrow out, pulled out a rocket. You know, those red things with the spinning top.
Fucking stupid.
Put this one squared through double lung.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect shot. It didn't die for another 30 minutes.
So from my understanding of stuff, and I've had it in my instances. So firstly, guys, this sounds gruesome if you're not into hunting. If you are, this is the reality of hunting, whether it's rifle or bow. All right. And this is why, if you're getting into archery, the conversation we're going to have in a minute about broadheads is so damn important.
Yeah.
Because when you don't know different, there is things that do the better jobs. End of story. And for me, the lessons you take away from that is never take a shot when you push for time.
That's why I won't hunt on a Sunday again. Every other animal I've ever shot, it's one arrow.
Yes, I mean you're renowned for killing stuff really well. Like
that's why I practice so much. I want to make a good shot.
If you bow hunt, you're gonna have these things happen. It's inevitable. If you have a 10-year bow hunting career in Africa and you don't lose an animal, you've gotten very, very lucky. If you don't have to put up follow shops or have a really badly wounded animal, because the thing is especially impala, blessed buck, etc., if the shot is not lethal, the adrenaline dump that they get is so astronomically high that it outweighs the lethality of the original shot.
Yeah.
So really, I'll show you broadheads quickly.
Well, when we got to the animal, and eventually later was able to kind of see what was happening, the first shot would have killed it. But I didn't give it enough time. When I got to the animal,
if it led down and bled out,
pumped it full of adrenaline, which was lying down. When I got to it, it was lying down. But I didn't give it enough time.
No.
Which is it's a lesson you have to learn. You have to learn these things.
And it's really hard, especially when you're in the bush, let alone being pushed for time. But when you shoot an animal, sometimes I place a shot and I see that fletch disappear and I'm like, he's done. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Like you see that fletch, a lot of times in the moment, you know where your pin was, but I don't know where that animal dropped or where it turned. And then you have this fucking never-ending feeling of, did I fuck that one or not? Like, 9 out of times 10, if you practice enough, you didn't. Luckily, I think I've not retrieved 1 or 2 animals. I've had a couple of misses recently. Like the animals seem to be doing some spooky ass ninja shit at the moment.
I'm so scared. I've never missed an animal. I've lost warthogs and an antelope once, but
yeah.
Every time I've not retrieved an animal, it's down to it's not my archery that was the issue. It's often it's lessons you have to learn in the bush, like warthogs. You could like all the 2 warthogs I've lost. They were fully alert. Mm-hmm. They knew exactly what was happening.
They were off before the arrow hit them.
We had video footage of all of them, and the arrow is going directly where I put it. But both times it.
But you got to remember. My first ever animal I shot was a wildebeest, and it's the famous buffalo story where I got down and face to face with buffalo and chucked a rock at it. I put an arrow through that thing from an elevated position, and my first ever shot, and it's one of 2 animals that we never recovered.
And that's a difficult one to do.
We chased blood trail 1.7 kilometers up a mountain like this, like cliffs. The thing had run up cliffs, chased all the way back down, and then the blood just stopped. And that's the thing, like, I don't know what caused that, and I'll never know. I'll never ever know.
What broadhead did you shoot it with? This is not a.
No. Seriously, it was something I'm not. I shot it. So this is back when we get into bows in a minute, guys.
Because this is a story I want to talk about.
40-pound bow. My first ever bow. I had it turned down to 42 pounds. It was my Vertex, my Matthews Vertex, and
Please don't tell me it was a Grim Reaper.
No. My second. No, I haven't lost an animal Grim Reaper, but I've seriously.
We've had a Grim Reaper. It wasn't with me. We've had a Grim Reaper plug holes twice.
So, I shot the slick trick. So this one, but the big fucker. So this is the kind of knowledge that we're trying to pass off today, guys. Because if I'd shot it with this, probably I would have been in a far better situation.
Yeah.
All right. Then a really heavy, and I didn't sharpen my blades. I just took them out of the packet. Really wide broadhead shooting, 40 pounds.
Yeah.
If I'd shot it with this at 40 pounds, I'd have probably found that animal. So, we're going to go into bows and we're going to bounce backwards and forwards. We're bouncing back and forwards quite a lot. We didn't finish the fact that if you are getting into archery, knock on YouTube, John Dudley, School of Knock. Start at the beginning and go from there. And as for bows, if you want a bow, there's only 2 men in this country that I let touch my bow. One is now in Australia. The other one is Johan Dudlick.
He built this one.
Yeah, Dudlick up at Magnum Archery. He is one of the very few men that I let touch my bow. Very, very talented and a lovely guy. And as I said, I'll give you a discount code for Magnum. So, yeah, I think you're going to lose animals. I've seen guys lose animals with rifles, mind, hey? Everyone thinks, archery's not lethal. If I place a good shot, I've downed a 500 kilo kudu in 17 yards. He didn't know what hit him. Do you know what I mean? He literally looked up, waddled off, fell over. And we've all had kills like that. But we've also all had those ones where something's just not right. And, I think we'll talk about bows first and we'll go into arrows and lethality afterwards because it's a bit backwards to do it the other way. So the first bow you had was that Hoyt. What did you buy after that?
So I did everything on the cheap when I first started.
Which is a conversation we need to also have.
I actually sold a bicycle to buy my first bow. I sold a mountain bike.
Okay.
And I sold the mountain bike outside the front door of Archer's Edge and walked in with a wad of cash. Only knowing, so now Warren had told me we're hunting the following weekend.
Yep.
So he's like, now up until this point,
is that where he shot the wildebeest? Is that the first hunt he went on?
So he had one hunt before I went.
Oh, okay.
We hunted it was something stupid, 5 or 6 times in the space of
in lockdown,
2 months.
I was off every 10 seconds in lockdown as well.
So he had just gone on a hunt. He was actually on a hunt the day. He wasn't with me when I bought my first bow because he was hunting. It was his first hunt. I walked in, and this is why it's important to go to a good shop as well.
Yeah, 100%.
I had Reg, who was actually he was amazing, just helping guide us in the right direction. I saw a brand spanking new diamond on the shelf. I was like, that looks kind of what Cam Haynes uses. I want that. And he's like, don't buy that. I'm the owner of the shop. You should be buying things from me. He's like, don't buy that. Rather get something older. Get a flagship that's slightly older than buying a new budget bow.
Yeah, 100%.
And now,
agreed.
I try anyone who asks me what should I do when I get in, don't buy the newest thing. and don't buy a budget one. Buy something slightly older, but buy a flagship. Like the bows, now if you buy something from the last 3 or 4 years.
Even if you buy something 2020, flagship, what's a 2020 of Vertex?
My furthest kills were with my Bear Kuma.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have the latest.
And not only that, when you start, you're not good. You will change.
It's gonna happen, yeah.
Because you don't know you don't know the difference between a long axle to axle. Let's run through a bow quickly.
Get something. Get something slightly older.
Yeah.
Get an older flagship, and build your base from there. Spend as much money on your bear bow as you can.
Yeah.
And build your peripherals around that. You can shoot with a shitty sight to start with.
Yeah.
Like you can. Most of my first few hunts were all with a 5-pin. And even then, I didn't even have a rangefinder. I used to have to pre-range, because my first couple hunts I was in a hide. I had to pre-range these distances and then look at that. And then from there, whenever I used to walk and stalk, I'd just walk and stalk with Warren.
Yeah.
So he'd just range the things for me. Only after that, only once I'd progressed, then you build up your peripherals around. Then you can buy yourself a nice sight and some nice
I think
things like that.
I think if I was to do it, so if I was to start tomorrow, I would probably get myself an RX6 or something. I would stick a decent sight on. Just for the sake of doing it, I would stick a decent sight on it.
Okay, would you go 5-pin first?
No.
Or a decent so a 5-pin and a nice rest, or a shitty rest and a single pin?
I would, mate. So, I've never changed this rest. This rest came.
I had one of those.
This rest came off my Vertex.
100%. I had one of those. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a whisker biscuit.
Oh no. You need a drop away if you want to be accurate. You need, if you want to practice.
That's what I'm saying. Would you, if you have a budget, you have a small budget now. Are you going nice sight?
What's a small budget?
Biscuit? So I had someone actually asked me this recently. They were getting into. They had a budget of 12.5 grand. What are you buying?
Christ, I'm so far away from that.
Then I'll tell you what I would. So I ended up building him a setup.
So I would probably run the cheaper site at that point. 12.5 grand. I'd just get a Rocky Mountain or something. Don't care if it. I'd ask him if he wants to do a 5-pin or a single pin. If I was getting into walk and stalk bow hunting again from the beginning, my mind works so much on optics with firearms. I can't shoot. This is a double pin, but if you look inside, it's taped up. I can't have 2 fiber optics in my brain. It fucks me out. If I was starting again, I would have forced myself into a 5-pin with a single floater. I would have forced myself in, because walking and stalking to have that 20, 30, 40, and you run into something at 30, 40, put both pins on him, yap it. So for me, because the hardest part of walking and stalking is 110% the ranging.
Oh, yeah. I was just telling you about the Blessbach Knight. Moved within 5 seconds.
Yeah, and I don't care who you are. I'm a human rangefinder. Everyone takes the piss out of this. I can guess yardage ridiculously well. In the bush, 10 yards can look like that. It is so hard to offset. And all the bushes are the same. So if you've ranged a bush and he's come out behind the other bush, so difficult while you're in a shot process, setting sights up and all the rest of it. Think, hold the fuck on. He was in that one and that one's slightly offset to that one. There's no depth perception in the bush. 12.5 grand. Fuck. What am I buying for 12.5 grand? Shitty sight, decent rest, and I haven't looked at bows in that price range. What can you get? I ended up recommending.
He ended up doing the opposite of what I said. He ended up getting a budget bow it was like a kit, came with a whole bunch of stuff. But what I ended up saying was Triax, Matthew's Triax.
Triax or Vertex. That money.
I think I ended up getting pricing a 5-pin for him, but there was a secondhand Boss Hog. That's the other thing. Don't be scared to buy secondhand.
There's 2 groups.
Stuff.
There's secondhand archery and.
They're great. Just speak to the guys on there, or if you're getting into bow hunting, you're probably going to end up running into someone who knows what they're talking about. Yeah. Ask for some advice, or they'll be able to help you a little 100%. More. Especially the guys from the shops. Buy something secondhand.
I wouldn't go all out. My Vertex is one of my favorite bows still to this day.
You can buy a Vertex for 9,000.
Yeah, so Vertex with a 5-pin and one of these for $1,500 be a brilliant bow.
You get yourself one of those Octane.
Yeah.
Sorted.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, for me, you'd kill anything that moves in the African continent with that if your arrow was set up. And this is why archery is so specific. And this is what I was saying. You buy a second-hand bow. So there's a thing called axle height. Axle height? Yeah. ATA, which is axle to axle. So it's from this pin here to this pin here. All bows are slightly different. I don't even know what this is. I think this is
a 30.
30. No, I think it's 30. What? It's a weird one. It's 31 or something.
31. Check. So put those together. And you can
It's 31. It's close. It's closer to that because you prefer. It's very close. You prefer a shorter bow as well, hey? Because you've got a 26.5-inch draw length.
So I overshoot on my draw length.
Do you?
Because I started on a 29.5.
So you're used to
I'm also
anchoring.
shorter, right? I'm trying to maximize. I'm trying to find a healthy balance between. This is not technical, but
yeah, we're gonna get technical.
My draw length
to arrow weight,
my arrow weight,
speed,
and the speed of my bow.
100%.
So we are slightly different. You've come back a little bit from where you were going ultra heavy, but I like to try and find that balance,
middle ground.
So like now you mark me about this, but now I'm not going to be shooting a buffalo or anything like that anytime soon. So now at the moment, up to what I'm shooting a 450 grain arrow with my 27-inch drawing. That's giving me a nice amount of speed. It means that I can shoot at a distance and not worry about.
So for everyone that doesn't know what he's talking about, each bow has an IBO. An IBO is a speed based off a certain set arrow weight. They shoot them all through, and then you have an IBO speed. I think the IBO speed is 340 or 323 or something. This is faster than that bow.
This is like a 335.
I think this is a 343 or something. Anyway, so the bows themselves all shoot slightly differently. And why we're saying get second hand, because your axle to axle height depends on your string angle when the bow is drawn. So like we mentioned it last week quickly with Warren, if you have a longer bow, your string angle is different to a shorter bow in which your string angle is steeper. So you'll find that the bigger guys with the 28.5 plus will want to go for a 34-inch brace axle to axle because their string angle is longer. And if I give them this, it's going to come in steeper because they're drawing a short bow at a longer distance.
Watching Warren shoot my tri-ax was
the string looks like this.
Yeah.
You want your string to be at a decent angle when it's coming off your face. So I actually never knew that. I picked a smaller bow because I'm so small, and my intention was always to walk and stalk. And this is where we were talking about stabilizers earlier on. Just grab your bow down so people can see it. If you look at Warren's bow, it has these two long dildos hanging off of it, one at the back, one at the front. They're called stabilizers. Now, inherently, I am incorrect at what I do because a bow is a very unstable object. You've got this thing out at a distance on your arm and it's moving around. You have a thing called a front ring on a sight, and this is a peep sight. When this is drawn at full draw, this goes flat. You look through this reticle like the rear optic of a scope, line that up, pin is where the arrow goes if you don't move anything. Same as a gun. If you don't move the trigger, the bullet will go where it's meant to go, as long as everything's sighted in and tuned up properly.
So simple.
Yeah, it's not. So, now, he runs stabilizers, okay? Now, stabilizers are inherent. I'm actually a very rarity. Very few hunters don't run stabilizers.
I've never met anyone who doesn't run a stabilizer.
Yeah, and especially on this. So his bow is made out of aluminium, so it's relatively heavy. And you can see this. We're talking about John Dudley. John Dudley used to be with Hoyt for many, 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 many years. And then in 2022, PSE took him on. This is a PSE. That is a Matthews, by the way, for anyone that is thinking, what are the bows? And as you can see, the little knock-on logo is all over my bow. This is because John Dudley designed and developed this bow. It's the carbon levitate. Now, I can't hold this. I won't be able to hold his bow like this. This thing weighs nothing. I've learnt to shoot it like this. You can see I've actually got an attachment for a stabilizer here. I've learnt to shoot this like this just because I'm so small and I like to walk and stalk. And I can accurately shoot this thing, 80, 90 yards. So for me, that's fine. Even Roarke, with his infinite power, wouldn't be able to hold his bow out like this because it's ridiculously heavy. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculously heavy.
Yeah,
Put
no,
it
I can't go
down.
past that.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got a hell of a grip strength because of your jiu-jitsu. So there is differences in bows. Now, when we were talking price, something like this is going to set you back 30 grand without anything on it. Carbon bows are inherently more expensive because this whole entire riser, this section of the bow is what we refer to as a riser. This is called the limbs, the limb pockets and the cams. This is inherently all carbon fiber, which is a lot harder to make something because when this is at full draw, it's under a lot of tension. I mean, you can't really just pull a string back. My bow's set on 65-ish pounds. What's yours on?
Just above 70.
Just above 70. So what that means when you hear people refer to this, because this is another thing that not a lot of people knew. Don't walk into a shop. It doesn't matter how big and how strong you are. Don't walk into a shop and say you want to set up a 70-pound bow because you're just going to pay hell for it. I'm small and I shoot 65 pounds. I can shoot 75. I can get up near 80. I've shot an 80-pound bow, but it's a struggle for me. Now, bow shooting is all technique. Simple. It's nothing to do with strength. You can bench press 250 pounds. I give them your fucking bow. They're not going to pull it back.
A good example of this is actually with Rich.
Yes.
So Rich,
He started off at 45, didn't he? Or something?
he started off the bat at 70.
Oh, did he?
But this is where it comes in. So we on the same day I bought your Prime, he
Yeah.
bought my Bear.
Yeah.
And at the same time someone else we know was also buying a new bow. This guy is a strength and conditioning coach.
Yes.
Obviously Rich is very strong. He's extremely strong, but this guy is obviously he mostly
Monster.
lifts weight. He doesn't
Yeah.
He does do jiu-jitsu, but not nearly quite like
No.
Rich. So this guy spent the first 30 minutes with Johan trying to yank this Prime that he just bought back, and he couldn't. They eventually settled on 40 pounds to get him to.
I started at 40 and worked my way up
Same
real
here.
quick.
What we did is we just turned it down. We keep turning it. We'd shoot. As soon as
Yes.
we were accurate at that weight, we'd turn it
Turn
back
it back up. So you can, again, this is very dependent on bow guys. So if you go and see Johan at Magnum or any of the boys up at Magnum, they'll tell you what bow is possible. So some discount codes. Just use St. Nick for all holsters off on the website. It's 20% off. We're running it until New Year's Eve, midnight. A little thank you for all the support you guys have given me over the year and the Southwest team. And Magnum Archery. Use James 10 and it'll get you 10% off anything in the shop, which is good on a 30 grand bow. So if you want to go buy a bow, now is a time to buy a bow. Please use the code, support me, and yeah, guys, much love. This is the last episode before Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that malarkey, and we'll see you in the new year, guys. Thank you. So I think this is actually...
You want to buy a 70-pound
This
bow,
is a... I
but you
think
don't
I don't
need
know
to
if this is a
necessarily set
70
up
or
as
an 80. I can't even remember. It's not written on the PSCs.
Turn it up a little bit, like towards me, so I can see the bolt.
Oh,
You
it's...
can usually tell by that gap whether it's 70.
Yeah.
I think probably a 70.
Yeah. So this gap here, these are the limbs. So when you pull back, this is what gives the strength in the cam, and like an old bow, but not as hectic. So these would come down to kind of yeah. If you wind this out, you give it more flex, therefore making the bow lighter. So if I wound these limb pockets all the way in, so they were touching in this gap here, this bow would be 70 pounds. So yeah, I would always recommend starting off lighter, because you can kill shit with a 40-pound bow if what we talk about next is important.
That's where I might differ. I'd say start out lighter, but I would say don't necessarily go hunting until you can go at least 60. Not that being said, there are obviously, I mean, we know some.
I mean, I know a
female
chick that shot a
40.
buffalo.
But
and
I'm saying
killed it with 40 pounds.
If you really want to get into it, you're going to practice enough before you go out. Therefore, you'll probably
100%.
by the time you go out hunting, your technique should be strong enough to.
But it's also like guns. Everyone argues about ammunition on guns, etc., etc. It means no difference. If I shoot you in the face, I shoot you in the face. And the next part we'll talk about now, which is arrows, is Oh, the one thing we didn't talk about quickly.
Before we go on, I should finish the story with that guy. Rich just said to me, so this guy couldn't pull the bow back, 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Eventually, Rich goes to me, right, break it down like a jiu-jitsu technique.
Mm-hmm.
So we stood. You were there.
Yeah.
Stood there, broke down exactly. He drew a 70-pound bow, first time.
Yeah. It is
So
all
I think
technique.
it is. It's you don't. I'm not nearly as strong as Dex, for example.
Most guys think they can just grab a bow and like you're shooting a trad bow. They're just pulling a string back.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about the movement because the cams, you see the way the cams are oddly shaped. They're slightly different on mine and Roarke's. But the cams that are designed to insert power. So like we were saying about this being 64 pounds. That is what I'm actually pulling back at the beginning of what we call the draw cycle, which is the string coming back. You have a valley and a step off and stuff on your cams. And then when it gets to full draw, there's a little hump. That little hump you're now holding, depending on your let off, you can set again on bows, guys. I'm not going to get too complicated, but you can set off 10%, 15%, 20% let off. So you're only holding 10% of the 60 pounds.
Yeah.
So you can stay.
Most bows are 75 to 85%.
Yeah. So and that doesn't sound like you're holding a lot, but trust me, when you'll sit there for 9 minutes at full draw, it sucks. Like I've done 1 9-minute in my life and it was horrendous.
Just let the bow down and do it again.
Problem is it was too close. It would step behind a bush and was like his mate was there in the open, but I didn't want to shoot him, but he could see me if I went.
Oh, he was going to move.
If I went like that, he would have gone. So the one I wanted to shoot was coming out in the open. And the other one was, I could see it in the corner of my eye. And I was like, I can't let down. And I'm just sat there just waiting and fucking. In the end, I actually kind of come to this angle. I did this weird thing where I just held my arm back rather than staying like all the way upright. And I managed to get through it. I reckon it was about 6-7 minutes. But yeah, so where were we? Releases. Oh, yeah, your guy. Yeah, so it's all in technique, guys. So don't get hung up on poundage and all the rest of it. And what we'll talk about next, which is arrows.
If you have to start low and work your way up,
100%. And look, like a handgun, people always say to me, oh, I'm going to buy a handgun and then I want to buy a red dot and I want to buy an X300. And I'm like, fuck all the other shit. Get a standard Glock and go spend 10,000 round on ammo.
Yeah.
Because your ability to send a projectile downrange, whether it's rifle, crossbow, arrows, anything, is what kills the thing. So I'd rather someone said, I've got a highly tuned 40-pound bow, I've put 500 arrows down, and I can shoot a fucking dime at 60 yards. I'd be like, you'll kill an animal. Let's just make sure you have the correct thing on the end of the arrow. Whereas someone who's struggling can only shoot 3 arrows, 4 hours at a time because they're shooting a 70-pound bow and they never shot a 70-pound bow and they're at full draw, their let-off's wrong and they're like struggling. It's such a detrimental effect to it. So the next thing this is a release, the things that you can hear clicking because they're fidget toys of note. This is a release, guys.
They're almost exactly the same, yours and mine.
Don't touch my release. You nearly managed to get your hands on mine. So again, this is one of John Dudley's releases. Very simple, guys. It has a little thing. Put it on. You go to full draw. Your thumb comes in here. Pull back. Click. Off you go. The old school boys used to shoot compounds with their fingers. The green trees of the world. Before they got hold of American technology, they were shooting these things with their fingers at 70 pounds.
Again, don't sweat too much when you're starting about this.
Yeah. You'll learn this.
You'll get a finger release.
Start a wrist strap.
And some of the best in the world still use finger releases. Yeah. So.
I mean, Cameron Haynes killed more animals around the world with a wrist strap. Start with a wrist strap because I think it's just the easiest not to mess up. These are so tendent to be like grip and you're off. Yeah. Whereas a finger, you put your finger behind that trigger, it's attached to your wrist. So it takes, I'm pulling 60 pounds back with 2 fingers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So this makes your life a lot difficult. And I don't like that release you're holding. Even though it looks very similar, this is a very finicky thing. Like me and you have probably been through 6 or 7. There's different.
Funny, not so much with the releases. I bought a finger release, and then Warren was like,
"Didn't you have a silverback as well, though?"
No, he's like, "You can't
Back
shoot
tension.
that. You can't shoot that anymore." we need to get better. Warren always pushes good technique above everything. It's like we need to get our technique better.
Yeah.
So he got a really good deal on a hinge.
Yes.
2 hinges actually, a hinge release, and we shot those forever. So what I was doing is I was practicing with the hinge
And hunting
then
with the
hunting with just a finger release. Then eventually I got the thumb, and then because I practiced so much with the hinge, when I switched over to the thumb,
it's very
it
similar.
became a very easy. Like I don't suffer
release,
from punching the
guys,
trigger too much.
Pass me your release. So a hinge release is without a trigger barrel. So this is set on the string. Trigger makes it go off. Whereas a hinge is set literally on a hinge. So this, if it's flat like this, can pull weight. The second I tilt the hinge. So when you shoot a hinge release, you're pulling back with your back. It's very hard to do a draw when you're sat in a seat, but when you tilt your hand, that hinge goes off. I hate hinges. I shoot people in Ramberg with a hinge. I can't draw a hinge. I don't know why. I'm not a fan of them. I've always been a thumb button guy, and ever since I've found Dudley's knock to it, I'm pretty much set on this being my release for the rest of my life.
Until you sell it to me.
No, you're never going to get it. So yeah, guys, moving on from bows, we're going to quickly run through arrows and broadheads because it's so important. And this is something me and Dex touched on as well about tuning. And this is why I say do what you and Warren did, which is get given a bow that's not set up for you, that doesn't have 12 matching arrows, that aren't tuned to the bow. It's you're making your life so much more fucking difficult. Whereas if you go up to Dudlick, and granted, you don't have to go as anal as we are straight away.
No, I shot, my first few animals were shot with, again, but I made sure I got a bow that was fitted to me. I bought a 2014 Bowtech.
Yeah.
So it was a few years old. I got, I started off with.
I've always liked Bowtechs. It's the one I haven't owned.
Yeah, I was with, Ridge built me up, I think it was 3 or 4 Carbon Express pile drivers.
Yeah.
5mm.
That's an arrow name, by the way, guys.
And I had no idea what he was. I don't even remember. I don't even know what weight it was. It probably was 400 grains. And hunted my first few animals with that. Just practice with those.
Yeah.
Only once I understood more did I get more down the rabbit hole of arrow setup.
I think out of all the musketeers, probably me and Dex have gone down the rabbit hole.
Way more than me.
Arrows and broadheads and I'm still not happy. This is my current setup. It's actually not. This is my current setup, but without this horrendous thing on the front. The best broadhead in the world.
I don't know.
Imagine if Rage see me going the best broadhead in the world. He makes a reel and I get sponsored by Rage. How annoyed would I be over Mr. Bill?
I'd be stoked.
Mr. Bill Van Hayden sponsoring me Iron Will.
That's what I shot my wildebeest with, and it went through. But remember, we looked through the straw for that arrow for 20 minutes, and the guy found it on the
other side.
Other side of the straw.
So.
Ow! Stab me with a broadhead.
It was a Rage. I actually stabbed you with the Rage.
That's why it hurt so much.
No, you would be cut if it was the Iron Will. So, guys, arrows are really important, hey? Not so much the arrow brand. You're shooting Axis at the moment, I can see in your box.
No, that's my old setup. I'm shooting...
Oh, you're shooting the Black Eagle...
Black Eagle, Deep Impact.
Deep Impacts now.
Formal.
Okay. So, guys, you get different diameter in arrows as well. This is a 5mm. And you get 4mm, which is the new craze. Which in certain hunting situations makes sense. Because of the... I'm not going to go too far into it, because trust me, I could sit here and do a whole podcast on arrows. The side wind impact on an arrow.
I think we can all agree, just get a 5mm to start.
Get a 5mm to start because they're inherently a lot stronger as well. There's a thing called the spine of an arrow. You'll see if you ever pick up someone's arrow, you'll be like, what the fuck are these numbers? It says 300 and it says 001. 300 is the spine, how stiff it is. That is dependent on your draw weight, your draw length, and that is it. Oh, no, it's not just it. Your tip weight. So, for instance, I'm shooting a 300 now with 125 grains on the front. If I was to shoot this arrow, I'd be underspined because it's a 200 grain broadhead. So this would be underspined. A bit complicated, but guys, basically the boys at The shops will set this stuff up for you. If you ever want to go down the rabbit hole, by all means, give me a shout. Now, arrows, Eastern, Black Eagle, Gold Tip, you know, the main guys, they're all going to outshoot you. I'm really happy with Black Eagle. I used to shoot Eastern Access, and I used to blow them up a lot. And then, Seppi and that boy started bringing rampages. I killed a load of stuff with the X Impact because it has that cool collar system on the end. And then I blew my PSC up with an X Impact. That was my fault, not the X Impact, and then held a grudge for a bit. But I'm thinking about going back to them because they do that FOC cool system at the front where you can get some weight up. So, again, my honest opinion, and I've done everything. Hey, me and you've gone from both spectrums. I've gone up to 690, 700 grain arrows, and you've shot 400 grain arrows.
Yeah.
Now, what we were talking about earlier with the speed and your weight. An arrow leaves the bow, and let's say this is 100 yards. The arrow will go like this. Simple. Yeah. It has an arc, okay? Even though you're looking like you're shooting straight, your arrow is going to come out the bow like this. Because these are heavy, you know. My setup now is 500 and something odd grains. So your bow's going to come out. It's going to come out at an arc. Now you're at a massive deficit. That arc, if you run 650 grains, for instance, if I swap between these two, this is going to be about 600 and something, 700 now, and 510. The arc on this is astronomically bigger, and the flight time is longer. There is also pros. Because everything I've touched with a 200 grain broadhead, no matter where I've touched it, has died instantaneously, just better. Now, again, I don't know. I don't know whether this podcast has got into a point where there's going to be about 10 people there going, and the rest are going to be tuned out now.
I think we'll have a summary at the end and we break everything down.
Yeah.
Quick.
So basically, get a decent arrow, get it tuned, figure out your draw length, and buy a decent bow. Don't skimp.
Don't go too far on either end of the spectrum. Don't go too heavy and don't go too light.
Basically, I think if you're 50 and above, 500 grains. If you're 50 and above, 500 grain arrow is about right.
50 pounds.
Yeah.
I think. What are you shooting? Right. If you're shooting anything from a warthog to a gemsbok or a wildebeest, I think 450 to 500 you are sharp.
See, me and you disagree there. I can't bring my shit below 500. I just don't. I think I've
had my best results at 450 to 500.
But with mechanicals, hey?
No, fixed blade as well.
Okay.
My wildebeest, this last wildebeest was a 450 grain arrow, 100 grain iron wool.
What's your speed? Do you know your speed out of that bow with a 450?
I didn't actually check.
Do you not?
It's going fast.
I've got to be doing 280-ish probably.
Close to that. And I think that's the sweet spot. Again, if you listen to Dudley, he talks about 280 being a sweet spot. And
not only that, you had this on the front. This is probably the best broadhead to date ever created by mankind.
I can't argue.
Like, there is not. I don't think there's a better. Look, I've shot a lot of broadheads, and
I think it also depends on the animal you're shooting. I'm shooting a wildebeest. I want the most amount of penetration through the animal as possible.
I mean, this is a wide. You get the slimmer version, but I'm talking as an engineering standpoint and metallurgy wise, iron will just win hands down. What have you got there?
So this is what I'm saying, right? So I think depending on what. So this is now. I'm shooting three broadheads now. So I shoot the iron wool. I shoot slick tricks, and then I shoot these.
This is a slick trick.
So
if you want to see,
I think it all depends on the animal you're shooting, right? I think if you're shooting something with smaller vitals, you need to create the most amount of damage as possible. Like, I would never shoot a warthog with 1 1/8 cutting diameter slick tricks. I would try and shoot it. I shot that. My last warthog was with a rage. It wasn't. I didn't want to shoot it with the rage. It was the only thing that was available at the time. But when I went to go buy broadheads, but it did the job 100%. I shot a quartering 2 shots, and the thing ran 20 yards and fell down. So I think depending on what you shoot, if you're shooting an Impala, something smaller, I think you want. This is where we potentially disagree. You want something that's going to cut as much as
So
possible.
my only problem is not the mechanical aspect that's my problem. My problem is, so guys, you're here in the archery world, cut on contact, mechanical. That is a cut on contact. It is a solid piece of sharpened steel in one form or another with different bevels. As soon as it touches the animal, it's cutting, okay? With bleeders, these are little bleeder blades. Some don't have bleeder blades. Cut on contact, really simple. When it's contacting, it's cutting. And then you have what we call a mechanical. So when it touches the animal, there is some sort of... Roarke just cut himself with mechanical. There is some sort of opening function, okay? Now, you'll see there. Those little things get depressed, and then these blades are open. The problem with this for me, the loss of energy that takes. Well, it's actually about 100 pounds. It's about 100 pounds of foot energy. Aaron Schneider and that lot have measured it. About 100 foot-pounds of, and not just the foot-pounds of pressure that you lose, the blade rigidity. I'm all about steels and what's good at going through things and what's going to hold up. And I mean, I could bend that. I could bend that blade if I wanted to bend that blade now by hand.
No, hundreds, but I think it also...
I can't bend that iron wheel.
Again, I think it depends on what you're shooting. If I'm shooting a buffalo...
Yeah, you're not going to use it.
I'm not going to use a mechanical.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I think I agree with you in a respect that these do more damage when they work. These do more damage. End of story. No discussion. Like your 2-inch cutting diameter, that slap on the opening makes a gargantuan wound. And if you hit it in the right place, done. The sever. Pass me that sever a second. That sever is probably was the best mechanical on the market up until Mr. Bomar just...
Those do look very
Mate, those beasts look... So, Josh Bomar, if you guys aren't in the archery world, Josh Bomar is also another Yank that hunts a lot out here. He's just made a broadhead that I really like because...
These aren't great.
No, they're terrible. So, he's just made a broadhead that I really like. Because these blades, are thick, they're sharp, but they're sprung loaded. So rather than the mechanical aspect of the shot penetration having to be done by the arrow itself, the second it touches, they launch at something ridiculous like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
so they look really good. I'll try them. I actually shot a monkey with one of these. The sever's slightly different. It's got rear deploying blades. You'll see it's held by a little elastic band. So when it comes into the animal, it's rear deploying and it's snapping those bands, which is a lot less energy than the kind of clip system that the Rage has. These are probably up until recently the best. They've got titanium ferrule and
They're
stuff.
ridiculously accurate. What's cool about those is that you can use the grub screws that they give you when you get them. You can actually practice with them. And I spoke to Travis, who...
He shoots 100 yards
He
with them.
only shoots... His field tips are severs.
Yes.
He's got 2 or 3 that he screws the end in, and then he just practices those on cycle.
No, 100%. These things are ridiculously accurate. And up until the Beast was made, I think it's probably the best. But again, I can't comment on the Beast because I haven't seen it in action. I've seen these shoot a lot of stuff. So yeah, these are the and as I said, I killed a monkey dead on the spot with one. So, but broadheads are another thing you can go down, guys. And the other thing is, make sure your shit's sharp.
Don't buy cheap broadheads either.
Don't buy cheap broadheads. Spend some money on them and make sure your shit's sharp. If you don't know how to get it sharp, get it sharp. There's one thing that we've all learned since: sharpness is key.
100%.
End of story, especially if you're fucking in this mechanical world. I'd much rather shoot a blunt cut on contact than a blunt mechanical
Sure.
every day of the week. Fletches, quickly. It's 3 fletch, 4 fletch. It's pretty simple. Like... different fletchers do different things. They say 4 fletch steers more. I think you have to be an astronomically good archer to notice the difference. You're running a 3 at the moment, aren't you?
I'm back to 3. I was on 4.
Yeah, everyone did that. Dex led that way. We all shooting 4 fletch, and then Dex went back with that Arizona easy fletch, put a big helical. The helical's the twist, guys. And then we've all kind of followed suit.
Yeah.
I just don't... We were talking about it before. I don't see the point in the extra cost of a fletch. And I don't see the point of adding weight to the rear, which I'm not even going to go down the route why now, but if you want to Google it, it's called FOC. So yeah, there's archery in a nutshell.
Okay, well let's provide a summary. You're walking into a bow shop,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm. Ring James first.
someone in one of your audience members asks you, right? I want to go buy something. What do you given a mediocre budget? Obviously not nothing, but doesn't have lots to spend. Give him a bow, arrows, and
I wouldn't skimp on arrows, so arrows are irrelevant. Let's keep that out of the budget. Arrows cost money, guys. I don't think you can get a good...
I think axes or the equivalent gold
Rampage.
tip, and just buy any 5mm.
5mm, the great thing about the Rampage is it's a 001, which if you want to get in an Axis is going to cost you an extra 60
I
bucks.
won't shoot anything less than 001 anymore.
No, I won't. But that's because we're good archers.
Yeah.
003 makes no difference to someone that's never shot an... You're not going to be good for a while.
Don't sweat the small things when you first start.
Yeah, basically. That's a really good thing to say. So go into a bow shop or secondhand archery world. But if you're going to go into the secondhand archery world, have someone on hand that knows what the fuck they're talking about, that's been down the rabbit holes we've been down. I am always open. I'm going to have Travis on here. I got Travis. Travis reached out to me 2.5 years ago. He said, James, I really want to get into bow hunting. I don't know what to do. And I said, go here, see this guy. Let's do this. And now he outshoots the Four Musketeers like a fucking animal.
But he'll be the first to tell you. I spoke to him recently. We were shooting at the gym, and he was saying he did the exact thing we were just talking about. He was sweating the small stuff. He was tinkering with everything, trying to get everything perfect. And then he'll tell the story in more detail. But he was telling me there was a mate of his who was shooting like a really old kind of shitty bow, but could shoot like... He's like,
because
dude, what have
fundamentals
you?
down.
Well, he's like, what's on your bow that's making you so accurate? Like, how are you? What have you tuned to make it work so well? And he was like, nothing. I just shoot a lot.
This is what Richie said. The closest thing to non-martial art that's a martial art is bows.
100%.
It is so much repetition. Everything's exactly the same. Has to be exactly the same. Has to be drilled every day. This stuff's all important, like your tune of your bow and tune of your arrow and your arrow spine. All of this stuff's really important because you can give someone a fantastic arch and an untuned bow with a shit arrow, and they're not going to shoot well. All right, but make your life easier. Start off with all your fucking gear squared away, and then just work on fundamentals. Same as I say with people with pistols: pick up ammo. Go drill. Go shoot. Same if you get to black belt. You didn't just turn up and got black belt. You've rolled thousands and drilled thousands and thousands, if not millions of reps. Yeah. So we haven't really talked about it, but how to get into hunting. There's plenty of game farms, all right?
The hunting comes easily in terms of there's a lot of game farms, and that you're going to 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a good PH.
And it's very easily accessible. You can go on Facebook, ask guys. Anyone in the bow hunting world will have a farm. Go to that farm. Get your first kill under your belt. What does it cost in this country? It varies compared to what the Europeans and stuff cost. An Impala Ram, the one that's sat behind Roarke and everyone you see, that thing will be about 2,000 rand. Okay, you'll get roughly about 70, 60, depending on the size of the thing, 50 to 70 kilos of meat.
Off of what?
An Impala.
50?
Yeah.
Off an Impala?
Yeah.
Seriously? 50 to 70?
Yeah. Why? What do you get?
How big are your Impalas?
Big.
I usually get like 30 to 35. No,
maybe.
Man, Impala, 50
yeah,
kilos.
no, it's not going to be 50. It's going to be about 35 kilos. 35 to 40. 50 kilos was my big one. Yeah, so 55 is a big one.
That thing must have been fat.
Phil Neck, you were there. I shot it. The one with that massive pig. Remember the pig that weighed in 72 carcass? Monster. Not him. About 2 kilos. So you get 30 odd kilos, take it to a butcher. They'll process the meat. So the whole thing, all in all, to get enough meat to feed yourself for a couple of months, you'd probably be including, travel and accommodation, 5 grand. 5 grand to go shoot a half decent antelope, put yourself on a farm for a couple of days, and butchering fee, you'll probably be at about 5 Gs.
And you're gonna your meat's still gonna work out somewhere near or slightly cheaper than buying it from the supermarket.
Yes.
With all of that included.
Always. And you had an adventure.
Oh, yeah.
And got some
That's the
memories.
most epic part. That's why, like, when you're getting into it, get your gear squared away, buy yourself a good bow. Like, don't buy... I wouldn't recommend buying new. Buy something secondhand because you're probably going to switch fairly soon. Get good arrows and then just reps. Practice as much as you can. Don't...
Rep for 3 or 4 months. If you can shoot a group... People always say to me, when am I ready to hunt? If you can shoot a group like that at 40 yards, you can hunt out of a hide.
Yeah, people... That's another thing.
Start in a hide.
Don't... Like, when you first shoot an animal, it's a lot to try and take in. So you need to try and... The number one priority is making sure that you don't cause suffering to the thing you're shooting. Right? You want that thing...
To the best of your ability.
Dead as fast as possible. Like, that's what you're trying to accomplish, right? Yeah. So if you're a brand new hunter, even though, like, we love walk and stalking, hunt out of a hide for the first few ones. You need to eliminate as much of the stresses as possible, and that's what a hide does for you. It's still very stressful. You'll see on your first...
I actually think hides are more stressful. Now, I walk and stalk and hides are more stressful for me. I make more mistakes out of hides than I do out in the bush. Just because you're like, I'm so bored in a hide. I want to be walking, and like I'm sat there, and you look up and you're like, oh my God. And you've got to get this whole thing ready, and there's no shot process.
We coined the term last time, the penalty box.
Yeah.
It is a penalty box. It's like someone's punishing you.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I was in it last time is because, I had the flu.
You're dying.
I was basically had Ebola. Yeah, but that is good advice. Like,
just hunt in a hide.
Hunt out of a hide. Get meat. The whole aim of this thing is to feed yourself, guys.
Yeah.
If you're a vegetarian, this conversation has been completely pointless for you. But if you're a man that wants to feed your family and you live in South Africa and you're that way inclined that you like an adventure, this shit is the most addictive thing you will ever do in your life.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to it. As I said to Warren, I will be hunting out of a hide for as long as I can pull a bow back. Like, if I'm 80 and I'm in an electric wheelchair, I will electric wheelchair my ass into a hide. Like, as long as I can pull a decent lethal bow back, I will hunt in Africa with a bow.
And like, don't I've had weekends before where we've been on certain farms where some farms won't let you walk and stalk, where they'll put you in the hide. I've had some farms where there'll be animals that come in, you can't shoot them, there's too many, or you can't get the right shot. Like, a hide doesn't guarantee you anything. I've had plenty of hunts where I've been put in the penalty box for a whole weekend and not shot a single
fuck
animal.
all. But you've seen a load. You had a buffalo in front of you, you've had giraffe in front of you, had all this shit, and you're like, and don't get me wrong, that's quite cool.
Then other times that we've had it where we've gone walk and stalking and within the first hour, you stumble upon something like, holy smokes, okay, cool, let's go.
But you can also walk and stalk for 3 days and not...
100%. Warren touched on the story the last time when he was on here about his best hunting experience was that walk and stalk. We walked probably 7 or 8 hours flat and had a good stalk on like 7 or 8 animals.
Yeah.
Like, it was
just
like...
sick.
It was incredible. We had
stuff that was unshootable, like buffaloes.
No, all of it shootable.
Oh.
The issue of the day was swirling wind.
Okay.
So what would happen is so the first one was an impala. We got to within 30 yards. The issue was that the shooting lane, you had to step out from behind the bush. So I was going to shoot it. So I'd actually drawn and was going to step out. And as I stepped out, the wind swirled and it looked up. And it was also standing in this awkward position where it was between 2 trees. And I took a step forward. So there was this tree.
There was no vitals, basically.
Blocking exactly where I needed to shoot. Then it was like Gemsbok. This farm had Gemsbok for...
Was it
3.5 grand?
Okay.
Something. It was in the Free State. This farm was incredible. We followed the herd of Gemsbok.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
It's gone. It's turned into a potato farm. It's gone. It's heartbreaking. But we walked after a herd of Gemsbok for 3 hours. We then ended up after Blesbok and Impala for another 3 hours. Lots of time getting to within 20 yards. And it just
no shot
never
play.
Materialized.
Yeah, I was saying the variables that comes into a perfect shot. Like, I always think about it. I always think after I hit an animal and I'm sat next to it, and I'm having that moment where I'm like, this is the coolest shit on earth. Yeah. And I think, what was the chances of that happening? Like, the variables in which that took... Like, it's just astronomical.
And that's why, like, again, coming back to practice, that's why practice makes every, like, that's...
You'll never be perfect. You're always going to fuck up.
when it comes to the point where you have to release that arrow. Everything, the shooting part needs to be second nature. You need to have dialed in your shooting to the point where you put the pin on where you need to shoot and you know it's going to hit there.
100%.
Often guys stuff up because they don't practice enough. Then when they get into the field, they're shaking. And
get yourself a 3D target. Do yourself a favor. Spend a little bit of money if you can afford it. Get yourself a 3D Impala. Because I can tell you now, shooting a piece of tape on a field butt at 60 and shooting an Impala, I mean, you do it. We both sit there and shoot tape at 60 yards. Like when we're having a competition, we'll go to my house, shoot the 65, and we're like, whoop. Because all of a sudden you're shooting at this thing that it's got dark bits on it. There's no hold on spot on it. Like it all of a sudden goes to tits up. So if you can afford it, I would always say get yourself a 3D Warthog for $1,500 and shoot the shit out of it.
What we did is we also check because sometimes they don't the like target on those isn't exactly the right spot.
No.
So we would put like a sticker on exactly
where you want to hit it. Yeah, and you can you can go on Google and put in vitals because everything changes.
What we also did because I've only just got my first. Warren actually just bought our first 3D animal now. So we
I've got an Impala for you at home.
Yes, that one. Yeah. Dex's old one.
Dex's one.
Yeah, so we always shoot together. So often, like what we were doing was we were buying those. You know, at Voldubius, they have the big printouts of the animals.
Yeah.
So we'd roll the printout on our butts.
Yeah,
and
which is just as good. Problem is when you get this kind of weather in the summer, it just gets destroyed. Yeah. I had one at Warthog up for ages, and now it started raining. We've been going for ages.
How long?
Oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
For some reason, I felt like we'd been going for 2 hours. I think I'm knackered because of... I ran this thing this morning, guys. Deploy Concepts. Run a different show. I was a bad guy on their final exercise this morning, and it was insane. And I was up at 2:30 and on the farm at 3, and it is now... I've been up a long time. I don't even know how many hours I've been up. A long time. But yeah, I think it's actually really nice to chat about bows and arrows because I always talk about martial arts, and as much as I'm interested in it, I'm also like, oh, this is my martial art here. This is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And as I said, guys, you'll find... So on the Southwest Show Instagram page, I only follow my guests, okay? If you watch an episode and you want to ask the guests something, ask them. Like, right now, the first 4, we're all bow hunters. Dex is a genius when it comes to...
The best when it comes to tuning.
The tuning of stuff. And he will answer a message without a fucking problem. If you have a question about arrow weight, broadheads, and all the broadheads, give me a shout. If you have a question about what's best to wear walking and stalking, give one of us a shout. Like, we'll always... As I said, Travis, I'm so proud of watching Travis's YouTube channel. And like that motherfucker reached out to me and he will solely say, because I put him in the right direction, that the reason he's in bow hunting.
And what's funny is we all have such different setups. Have you seen what his is like?
I mean, his set, I can't even hold it up.
You run no stabs. I run a double stab setup. Most hunters only run one.
Yes.
He runs essentially target stabs.
They're stupid.
I think he's on like a 15 and a 12.
He's meant, but again,
he uses it as a walking stick.
He can shoot. Yeah, he does. He can shoot a golf ball at 100 yards.
That is ridiculous.
He is probably the best archer out of all of us. Him or Dex. Archer-wise. Like, if you just
I'd like to have a shoot-off. So far, I'm one up on a slightly tipsy Dex at night at Volnik.
You're level pegging with me at the moment.
No, hold up.
Nah. Don't start chatting shit.
We are 1-1.
No.
I beat you in the night shoot at Volnik.
No, yeah, yes, but I beat you at my house twice. If I recall,
when we watched that night shoot, I went first and put it on the sticker.
Oh, no, 100%. You beat me at the night shoot, but I was already 2 up on you at my gaff.
I couldn't even tell you where your arrow landed because when I saw it go, I just saw sparks and then we didn't see it again.
So this is also, guys, why you want to do this. You get to hang around with your mates. Put a flashlight at a field butt at 70 yards.
I couldn't even see through my peep.
I couldn't see fuck all. I was just like, thump.
Dex still put it on the target.
Mate.
After having a couple of
Dex was fucking hammered. He looks and goes, oh, and he's wobbling. I'm like, he's never hitting that. And it was a small, if you are into archery, it's one of those small field butts at 70 yards.
Like
and I literally ran up, put a torch in front of it, and where we were shooting from was pitch black.
You wouldn't even let me put a torch on my peep. No.
Because I had a sight.
It's because you were jealous I hit the eyeball on your Impala.
You did. You did. We pulled out all or nothing and said shoot an eyeball at 30 yards on the Impala, and you hit.
It wasn't 30. It was like 45.
No, it wasn't. It was by the pool where we shoot. We were shooting up by that bench. It's 32 yards. We were shooting. The competition was 65 up by the tree where we shoot over my pool through.
And then you said double or nothing on the iron. I missed.
Yeah.
That's why you.
Yeah. So I was
supposedly
2.
One.
No, I was 2 up.
But I went.
But you
I
went
for
1
the
up.
hard shot.
You did.
I risked it.
You risked it. So we're zeroed out at the moment. We are level pegging.
We have to settle this. We should have a.
What we'll do is we'll have Chris run across the field now. We'll put on some of those game points.
Don't send me.
We'll have some game points, and we can see who hits Chris on the run from the window. 120 yards, and neither of us sighted him for it.
Yeah, but these arrows aren't sighted.
Roarke is the king. All right, Roarke is the king of the 4 Musketeers of going, I don't want to blow up an arrow. So, we just talked about how important it is to pull off a good shot with your arrow being tuned to your bow. Roarke will walk up to his case of fucking misfit fuck-ups, pull out an arrow, and then shoot the fucking arrow on an Impala. I'm like, what the fuck? How do you even do that? And then you give him his arrow at 40 yards and he'll blow it up into the wall. It's fucking, you're the king of just picking up. Do you remember when we were at Vilneck and we were shooting the 100-yard, that tiny little fucking broadhead butt?
I pulled out one of those wonky ass.
You pulled out the wonkiest arrow. You span it and you've seen the thing go... You fucking sent it 100 yards and hit the circle. I was like,
that was after you convinced us. You were like, no, boys, listen, we have to be up at 4:30 in the morning because we decided to go hunting in summer. So it was pretty similar temperature to this, basically 50,000 degrees.
Yeah.
So like, no, you have to get up at sunrise. So now it was Rich and Don's first hunt. Mm-hmm. And we thought, no, we'll walk and stalk. I'll go with Rich.
Fucking Don.
Warren and Don will go together. And the PH was like, no, you have to take trackers with you. But didn't tell us that these trackers were just the guys who worked on the potato farm. They had no idea what they were doing. So he dressed them up in camos.
And he just walked.
Only after like 2 hours, we had walked like 10 Ks. And the whole time I just trusted this guy.
I
was like, you went all by yourself. I was like, we've been walking with the wind behind us.
That's what I said.
He's going to turn at some point, I'm sure, and we'll walk into the wind. And then eventually, I was like... So the reason that made us turn around...
Because we got to the end of the farm.
Well, we got to the end of the farm. We turned around. Within 30 minutes, we see this herd of zebra.
Yeah.
And I was like, Rich has a perfect... This is a great first animal. Yeah. And he's like,
huge target.
Zebra. 100%. So we end up behind this bush, and he draws. And now I'd realized that the tracker was not... qualified at all to be doing what he was doing. So I was like, dude, just stand behind the tree and
don't move, brother.
Don't move. Stay
Universal
right
sign of
stop. So now Rich draws and they're 15 yards.
Oh, fuck off.
Behind a bush. And I'm like, it's going to happen because this thing's moving directly into the open. So Rich's draw, like now pointing at where it's going to happen, they walk in from the side. As it's about to clear the bush, like, what the heck?
The tracker stood out in the open.
We looked back and there's this tracker standing out in the open looking directly at us and he was like... So then we angry hiked 8Ks back to the house. When we got back,
mate, I remember
Don was wearing almost nothing, sweating, dripping with sweat. Warren's making scratch. I was like, what happened? He's like, we walked the whole farm.
I remember leaving with you guys and then I tagged along to Don. Who did I go with? It was you. Yeah, I was with you. No, you and Rich went off. I stayed with Don and Warren. And I remember getting into about 20 minutes into this walk and being like, this guy knows nothing what he's doing. Put my hood up and just dipped off into a bush and fucked off by myself for the day.
I think for them, it got to the point where the tracker was in potential physical danger from one of the two of them.
Don or Warren were going to strangle the cunt and bury him.
And remember, Vilnick, they had closed the tented camp for the year, so we stayed in that dodgy-ass slaughterhouse.
When Don found that,
it's one of the most beautiful farms you'll ever. It's probably the most beautiful farm you'll ever go to with their 5-star tented camp.
Yeah, we stayed in the tented camp the year after.
It's incredible.
It's sick,
but they didn't have it open that year, so we were staying with the giant red Romans.
I remember walking. I just wound Don up for a whole entire drive. I don't know how I didn't get murdered, but I was just cheeky as fuck to Don the whole entire drive. I get to the farm, all I hear is, James. What the fuck?
I heard screaming and I was in the bathroom. I was like, something hectic
Something's
is that there's
going
a
on.
wildcat in the
I was like,
lounge."
why is Don Madge, the UFC fighter, calling my name? I'm getting killed. I walk in and there's this fuck off. And I just remember looking at him. I pulled my knife out. I looked at him and I went, "You fight in the UFC." Stabbed the thing and walked outside.
My best was, so I came out the bathroom after you had stabbed it, and he wasn't happy enough with you just stabbing it. So when I came out, he's like, "No, I don't trust James." So we walked out, and he had grabbed the log and beat the thing until it was
just a mush.
bits of pieces of
Mushy.
spider.
Mush. It was a good trip.
It was.
Let's wrap this up. I thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that you're shooting Matthews. But someone's got to do it. I mean, although I think you're going to end up back on Prime.
I won't for one reason.
Why?
I've had one already. So you and I have had the most bows out of everybody. I'm yet to
by one, I think. But
yeah. I'm yet to have a Hoyt. So I think.
Have you not had a Hoyt?
I'm either going to be on the lift after. I will never buy the latest one, just purely because of your drop off in value.
Money. Yeah.
Like, this is a V3.
I'm not buying a new boat this year.
Exactly the same as a V3X.
I'm keeping
almost.
this. This is staying with me this year. I'm not changing this year.
Also, it's such a mission to set up a new boat. Like, once you
I mean, I can do that. I just dedicate a whole entire day of my life to doing that.
But to get dialed in, you need time.
Yeah, but I've got my back garden. I can shoot 60. But that's actually a problem I'm having at the moment. I can't find a sight tape that works with this arrow setup. I've actually got my own sight tape that I've done 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 55, 60, lined up the last couple and tried sending 70 and 80s and it's not working. So I've got to fit. Me and Dex spent a while on the phone the other night talking about it, trying to figure out what the
But you do make your life more difficult.
Oh, 100%.
I'm happy to stay within the parameters of
easiness
and practice.
Yeah, but the thing is, you've got jiu-jitsu to be hard for your life. I don't have anything that really fucking angers me. Apart from...
If you want to really have a bad day, do jiu-jitsu. So we do this every week. So we do jiu-jitsu and then we go outside at the back
range.
end of the gym is the CrossFit gym. They let us use their AstroTurf. Well, we just set up our stuff there.
They're not going to say anything.
We stand on the wall and we shoot like 45 yards. If you want to have a really bad day, have a hard jiu-jitsu session and then go shoot arrows.
No, I'm good. Cool. Been a pleasure. The be-all and end-all of this whole entire podcast is don't shoot Rage. Okay. Unless you're Roarke, and then you want to get called Rage Dwarf your whole entire life.
Yeah, I've actually only shot 2 animals with the Rage out of everything I've ever shot. And you call me Rage Dwarf. I think I mostly do it though to irritate you. I actually am only shooting mechanicals to make you cross.
I think Carl actually leg locks you. I don't think you leg lock Carl.
Yeah.
I'm turning around on the whole beginning of the podcast. I'm turning around. I'm back to Carl is actually a better purple belt than you.
Phone up our mutual friend.
Fritz, if you ever know anyone in jiu-jitsu, all right, and you know someone in jiu-jitsu that's the same belt as them, the easiest wind up in the world is just tell them they're better than them. And you can't.
But you can't. It can't wind me up because I'm 100% confident.
He leg locks the fuck out of you. Don't. It's fine. You're 66 kilos.
Ask Fritz. Ask him.
Look at this face.
Ask Fritz.
This is the same shit you do with Rage Broadheads with me.
Ask Fritz.
Anyway. Let's end on that bombshell that you lose a lot of leg locks.
We're going to have a super
Fritz.
fight next week. I'm going to fight him.
I want to watch. I'm in. Guys, thank you for joining in. Much love. Thank you for coming, brother.
Thanks, peeps.